This week, the pursuit of creativity brought me to filmmaker Jack Cook. In addition to filming content for huge brands around the country, Jack has been daily vlogging on TikTok for over 500 days. If you've ever tried to make a vlog, you know this is no small feat. In this episode, we talk about how having a personal creative outlet is super important, what it's like to live and work in LA, and how having a strong creative support system is essential for working for yourself. My name is Ikey, and welcome to the Pursuit of Creativity podcast. Jack, I am so stoked to be having this conversation with you. I've been following your TikTok for a while now, and to see all of the things that you're doing, all the cool videography stuff, I'm so stoked to have my audience get a taste of that as well. So, Jack, if you could give us a little intro to yourself, like where you're at, where do you live, how old you are, and a synopsis of your job.
Okay, an elevator pitch, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Jack Cook. I currently live in Los Angeles, California. I've been living here for like 2.5 years. And since I moved out here, I've been doing freelance videography, anything from director to PA to everything in between. And then the more recent times, I have been doing a daily vlog on TikTok. It kind of showcases the behind the scenes of my work and what I do. And I've been doing that for almost 500 days straight now.
500 days straight. 500 days of Jack. I like that.
We're on 491, I think. So closing in on 500.
That is literally like astonishing and amazing, and a round of applause for that. But we'll come back to that because I do want to start with more of the videography part of Jack Cook. So cool. Could you just let me know and our listeners know like how you got started? Like, did you go to school for videography? Is it just like a passion that's grown into like your full-time thing?
Yeah, I started making videos when I was pretty young. Like I was like 12 and had a camera and liked making videos. I didn't take it seriously until I was 18. I made a YouTube video with a drone because I had a drone and I was just filming a bunch of stuff in my hometown. I made a YouTube video out of it and I was like, I liked doing this more than I've liked doing anything ever in my life. Like, this is the most fun I've had doing a thing before. And it was a very like real realization. So once that happened, I decided I wanted to do filmmaking full time, figure out like how to make it a job. That was right before my senior year in high school. I graduated high school and I went to Auburn University. I started shooting sports there. So I was filming like the football teams, basketball teams. And that was where I really like took my first leap in terms of like really learning about video, really learning what it means to tell a story. And then by the time I got to graduating college, I had a few years of experience doing video like professionally, I guess, under my belt. And I was like, well, I want this to be my career. And so I decided like LA was the place that like that could potentially happen. So I moved here in June of 2020 and didn't have a job when I moved here. I didn't really know anyone, so I just started sending cold emails to anyone and everyone that was related to film in LA and just was like, I will grab your coffee for you. I will do anything that you need me to do. I just want some experience. And took me like 3 months, but eventually I started to find some work. And since then, it's just been like a slow snowball effect.
That is really, really cool. I admire the grind. Or whatever you want to call it. I don't feel like people don't love that word anymore, but to go out there.
No, it takes a while though. Yeah. Like once you start, it's like takes years to even get to the point where you feel like you're familiar with the craft.
Totally. Could you, based on what you're just saying, like, could you describe one of your first jobs when you first got to LA versus a job that you've had recently? Like, what did you do then versus like how you've like evolved it to now?
When I first moved here, I was doing a lot of, I was doing work with like a production company, and I was filming a lot of like YouTube style videos. Like I was more wrapped into the social media world. So I was actually making all of the D'Amelio's YouTube videos. So like Charlie. Wow. See, I was shooting and editing most of their videos for a production company that was their main client. So I was doing a lot of that style of work. And at that time, most of the style of work I was doing was I was contracted under a production company or an agency to do work for the then client or brand or whatever it was. The biggest difference for me now is I've gotten to a point where the brand is coming directly to me, or I'm working in tandem with an agency to work with a brand, as like the agency is a little bit more of a representative, not as much like contracting me out for a specific role. So I think that's been like the biggest jump I've had in my career, is sort of like breaking out of that cycle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For those who, like, I have a good idea of what like the benefits are of doing it directly with the brand or versus going through a middleman, but could you just explain, like, for those who don't know, like, why that's important to kind of have your own thing as well?
I would say first big thing is like financially, it's like a big jump to get like working directly with the brands or working directly with agencies. Like, there's a budget for a project that typically comes from a brand or a client. That budget then gets allotted to either a production company or an agency, and then sometimes it goes through another hoop. And then where I was at was I was then getting a piece of the budget that was getting pieced through the production company, you know. So there's just a lot more steps of that you have to go through if you're like on set as a PA or on set as a camera operator. I think it's a little bit tougher to like make a sustainable living. Like, you have to have like a high volume of work. And now what I'm doing now, working directly with agencies or working directly with brands, is I can take on less projects and actually make a little bit more money, which allows me to be a little bit more selective with my work. Totally. And when you get to be selective with your work, you get to choose things that you're actually really passionate about, and it allows you to like pour more into those projects.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I feel like that's like the constant struggle for entrepreneurs or like creative types. They're always like trying to balance between, I need work, I need to get this like stuff to pay the bills, and also, but I'd like to do this more, or I'd like to choose this more. So could you describe like an ideal client? Or if you have a client you can talk about, maybe not, but someone that like a type of client that you enjoy working with.
I would say the first one that comes to mind is Zila. They're a like protein supplement company, and the founders, his name is Ilya, and so I have like a pretty good relationship with Ilya, and I've recently done 2 documentaries with him, where he takes somebody through a weight loss journey, and we document that process and like sort of make a documentary out of that. So I think that in and of itself, like when I look for a client, I'm looking for like, what is the work that they're offering for me, and doing like a documentary about a weight loss journey is like a fun project in and of itself. Totally. And also they have budget that they can actually allocate to the project. So I think when you have both, when you have a client that can actually bring in a budget to make a video, and they also have like an idea that is exciting, I think like that's the type of thing that I look for.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Is this the documentary that you reference in your vlogs? I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
It is? Okay.
I reference it quite frequently. So it was recently her name's Natalie. She was going through weight loss journey. And so we'd been documenting it since like, gosh, I don't know, September, maybe even before that, probably before that. But we just finally wrapped it at the end of January, and it's finally out. So as we were doing the documentary, I was kind of documenting it in the vlog slightly.
That was something I definitely wanted to ask about, because I was like, oh, cool, he's shooting a documentary while like doing all this other work. That sounds like super intriguing. On the flip side, is there a type of client that you at this point would turn down, whether that's like the creative or the type of business or things like that?
There is sometimes that I have to turn things down, and it's always for different reasons. Sometimes like the ethos of what the company wants to do just doesn't really align with like the type of work that I want to do. Sometimes it's just scheduling. Like sometimes they just need things by a certain date. And if I can't fully commit to being able to like give the best product that I know I'm capable of giving by a certain date, sometimes it's like, thanks so much, but we just gotta, do something at a different date because I don't have time right now. Sometimes it's budgets. It really depends on like a lot of different things.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. next, I would love to jump into the vlog. So this is where I found you on the interwebs on TikTok,
Do
is
you
this
remember
daily
when it
vlog.
was?
It was maybe over the summer.
Oh,
Um, it was
okay.
definitely like a good while before like the 1 year mark, because I remember seeing that video and I was
Got
like,
it.
that's great, that's awesome. So I think over the summer, and for those, if you're listening to this or watching this, like go search Jack Cook on TikTok and watch some of his vlogs. They're intoxicating. They're just like fast paced and well written and all that stuff. So I would love if you could to walk us through like the process of like what made you decide to start doing vlogs, and then
Yeah,
how you actually like film them throughout the day.
for sure. Yeah. So the actually this kind of relates back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. When I first started to do this vlog, it was because I was in that position of uh, getting hired out by production companies and working for brands and clients. But I kind of felt like my career was like a hamster wheel. And like I
Hmm.
kind of just had to go from one job to another, but it never really felt like there was an upward trajectory. I didn't really feel like I had something for myself or like something that I was able to market. Like, even if you're a production company, you're trying to like maybe market yourself on Instagram or, through word of mouth with other clients. And I just felt like I didn't really have that. And so I was actually complaining about it to my girlfriend one time when we were on
Yeah.
vacation. And I was like, I feel like I'm kind of stuck in a loop and I need to find a way to get out of it. And so she suggested to me that I needed to post videos on TikTok. She was like, that you have to post videos on TikTok. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to
Yeah.
like hop on trends and just make 15-second videos about whatever. Like it just doesn't seem interesting to me. And she was like, well, that's what you have to do. So just kind of figure it out. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you're right. What do I do? And then I thought back to the things I enjoyed watching when I was 18 to 20 years old, which was a lot of like Casey Neistat stuff on YouTube and like that era of YouTube and social medias. Like I was always really drawn to that. So I was like, what if I take that idea and sort of put it into a vlog, but on TikTok, and maybe it's only 30 to 60 seconds, but it kind of gives me a place where I can have like some creative control over projects,
Hmm.
because that was another issue I had was when I was in that hamster wheel. Like a lot of times I didn't have the creative control because, at that time I wasn't even really a director. Like I wasn't director on
Right.
any project. So it was hard for me to be involved with creative or have any control over certain things. So this was one way that I could, one, begin to like market myself and the things that I was able to do, and two, just have a place where I had a creative outlet. So
Yeah.
I started doing that in October of 2021, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. October of 2021 is when I first uploaded them, and I just started doing them every day. And I knew I would be committed to doing it every single day, wouldn't miss a day. And that was kind of how it began. Now, when I shoot them every day, it's completely different than the way I used to, and it
Yeah.
continues to change all the time. Um, but generally speaking, I'm shooting things all throughout the day. At the end of the day, I sit down, I drop all the clips onto my computer. I then do my voiceover. I cut the voiceover, and then I go to sleep. And then I wake up in the morning and I edit the clips to the voiceover, and then I put music on it, and then I post it. So it's sort of like the flow. And then I, go and start shooting the next day. So that's kind of the flow of like how I get them up every single day.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I didn't think, I was like, oh, he probably just edits it all at the same time. It's cool that you do the voiceover at night, like right after the day, and then you do the editing afterwards. It makes a lot of sense in my mind.
It's fresh when I do the voiceover that way. And also, if I do the voiceover in the morning, I sound groggy. Like I sound like I just,
Uh,
you have
yeah,
like that period of time when you first
yeah.
wake up where your voice sounds really deep and like you have like a morning voice. So I
Hmm.
didn't want that to, I actually did that a few times in the videos. And I think like you can tell that I just woke up when you listen to them
Yeah.
back. And so I was like, I want to avoid this. So I've just been doing it at night, like right before I go to sleep.
I love that. Like, I think it's so interesting because I too like binged Casey Neistat and like all those guys, even before I lived in New York, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I love that. So it's cool to see that style and like that storytelling come to TikTok with your videos, and I think there's some other people that do vlogs too. But it's exciting. Like, what is on that same note? Like, what is your favorite part about the vlog? Is it just like the process, or like having complete creative control? What would you say?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag of things. I think like having something that I have creative control over is something I always wanted. So having that is a big part of it for sure. But, more recently, the fact that most of my work actually comes through that format. Really? I don't usually, when I get hit up to do jobs at this point, it's because somebody found me on TikTok for like my vlog, which is great. And so having something that feels like there's momentum behind it as well is really exciting, because I've been making videos since I was 18, like I talked about, and I'm 25 now, and this is the first time where I feel like I've started to build something that has upward momentum. Like when I was at Auburn, the videos were doing great and I was learning a lot, but like there was always an end at Auburn where like I was going to graduate, and I was making YouTube videos for a while, but I was never really consistent with it. When I first moved out to LA, it was like I moved client to client, but I never really felt like it was moving upwards. And so this was the first thing that I've ever created where I feel like it's getting me new work that I can funnel back into that same format, and it continues to grow on itself. And so it's really exciting for me to have something that finally feels like it's actually gaining momentum. So now it's like, that's a part of the reason why I don't miss a day anymore, is because I'm more motivated than ever to do this style of video, because it's the first thing in my career that's like really been working and has allowed me to like be at this house that I'm in and put food on the table. Like, that's crazy to me, and I've never had that, and I've been searching for it for like 7 years now. So there's so much motivation behind that of like, I'm gonna do these every day. Like, this is the greatest thing to happen to me,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I feel like it's so rare for creators to like find that thing that they enjoy doing, and also it's working for like helping them in their whole creative process and their work and stuff. So kudos to you on that. That is like super, super cool. Another question about the vlog: are the bevs sponsored, or just or just something you enjoy?
Not sponsored. They're not sponsored. It's something that I really enjoy. I would obviously be open to a sponsorship one day. Would love to work more with the brand. I think that would be the benefit if it was actually like a sponsored thing. Obviously, at this point, it's very organic. Like, I actually just drink one of the drinks every day. Like, I'm never going to change that habit, but I would love to work with the brand a little bit more and create like more of a storyline there and more of like a direct connection to the brand. So then the audience also kind of has that connection to the brand. So at this point, they're not sponsored. I've talked to them multiple times. I think that eventually we will work something out, but at this point, it's not something that currently aligns with like what they do as a business. They don't do a lot of like influencer marketing, and they really don't do very much on TikTok either. So it's not something that they're like really focused on right now, but maybe I could change their minds on that. I would love to.
There you go. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you work for that, what is the name of the brand? Sorry,
Guayaki.
Guayaki. Hey, if you're listening, hook up my man Jack Cook. Okay,
100%.
In that same vein, who would be, because this is always an interesting thing for someone that's like, you're on social media, you're doing these videos for brands and things like that. Do you have a dream person you'd want to collaborate with?
I have had some back and forths with Tim Trisano. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've followed him for quite a while. I found him like after I started doing my vlogs for maybe like 100 days or something. I found his, and I was like, these are fantastic. Like, he does a great job of like narrating himself and providing like a silhouette to his life. So we follow each other on TikTok, and like we've messaged a few times. Like, he sent me a Christmas card this year, but like we've never actually met in person. So I would love to actually meet in person, and like, him be in a video and like me maybe be in one of his or something. Like, it would be fun, because we've had so much interaction just through the app, but just not in person yet. But next time we go to New York, I'm hoping I can make that happen, because that would be really fun.
Totally. Yeah. I was going to mention that he's the other vlog person that I watch. So,
He's
um,
incredible. Like
it's
he does a
impressive.
really, really great job with like storytelling through his voiceovers. I've always like looked up to his videos as a gold standard for that format.
Yeah, it's impressive, and I feel like he's in such a unique spot because he's just like, working the. There's nothing wrong with 9 to 5s, but like working the 9 to 5, and like he has a
Yeah,
family, like, but he also has like a bunch of tattoos and like a sneaker connection or collection.
sure.
Just like a super cool dude. I love that. Great,
Absolutely.
that's a great collaborator. I agree, that would be cool. Another question I had, something that I've pondered myself a lot, and I'm trying to get this across to other creators I'm meeting through this podcast is like, has content creation in general, in your case maybe the vlog or just your video work, how has that like affected your social life or mental health or relationships? Obviously, your girlfriend appears in the vlog from time to time, but I would love to hear like how your work kind of interacts with the other parts of your life.
You know, because I'm in LA, I think it's probably a bit of a special case because everyone here is like in the entertainment industry in some way, shape, or form. So there's not very often where I'm interacting with people who aren't familiar with something like that. There are some people who like, I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and like I may go like back to Savannah and like they would not understand what like a TikTok vlog was. But like
Yeah.
even if someone in LA doesn't know specifically my videos, if I said like, oh, I make vlogs on TikTok, like they would immediately like have an idea of what that looks like and kind of be like excited by it and be like, oh, well, I want to be in the vlog. You know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
it's
Yeah.
like almost an addition to my social life because either people know that I do them, so when they see me, they get excited and they want to be in the videos,
Yeah.
or they don't know, but then when I tell them, they get excited and then they want to be in it. So it's actually like kind of an enhancement because so many people are like really supportive of that out here because everybody's doing a lot of like creative endeavors. So when you see someone else that's doing something, like most people are like super supportive of it. So I don't know that it would be like that everywhere in the world, but because I live
Mhm.
in LA, I think it's like a lot easier to be like, oh yeah, I do these like TikTok vlogs, like, do you want to be in one? Or like I go to lunch with
Yeah.
someone, like it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, let me get you in my vlog. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I feel like to your point, LA is probably a bit more used to it. New York, you can kind of get away with all sorts of stuff. So like, I definitely feel it as well. I mean, you go outside, you're never the weird person doing a video.
Never
Like
the
there's
weirdo,
so many people doing stuff. So,
for sure.
um, yeah, no, that's cool to hear. I mean, one of the cool things, in my opinion, about like content creation and social media, especially TikTok, is like how it can help widen your like area of friends and colleagues and people,
Yeah, and even like new people that I meet, like people will maybe want to reach out to meet me because they saw the vlogs. So then when I do meet them, they're then excited to be in them. And then I like actually meet, like, I actually have a good connection with that person. But then also, they get to be in the videos, which is fun. They see the videos the next day. It's fun. Like, it's mostly been uh, a very positive thing. And even with Mallory, like you mentioned, our relationship, like, she's super supportive of everything that I do. And she's also like a very creative person herself. So she also actually helps me a lot of times with the creative of them. Like if I feel like I'm stuck or I feel like if I feel like every day, every video, like kind of starting to feel like the same, I'll like always go to her and be like, what can I do that like makes these feel different or makes them feel new? And like, she's always finding ways to push me to like make them better and like giving healthy suggestions for them because like she's a creative as well. So honestly enhanced our relationship more too because we get to go and do fun things. Like we went to one of the F1 races this year and like she got to kind of come with me. So most of the stuff has been like really positive so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's something that is not talked about enough, is like I won't say like, it's not like people get benefit from knowing you, but it's like you get to share the wealth of doing cool things as a content creator.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope that can expand more like this year, especially if I can like do more fun things with my friends and like enhance them as like a part of the videos. Like that would be really fun.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I feel like that's a great goal too. Is like that's something I think about. It's like I want to do cool brand deals so like I can do cool stuff with the people around me.
100%. Yeah.
All right, so I do like to do this one little bit on this podcast where I let the creator, the entrepreneur, do a little bragging because I think there's like a feeling in the world where there's so many things going on that it sometimes feels weird or wrong to brag about something cool you have going on. But I want to, give you some space to talk about something cool that you have done recently or something you just want to kind of brag about.
Okay. Let me think. I would say last year, around, I think it was the end of April, beginning of May, I got to go to Miami for one of the F1 races. And I was a videographer for Alpine that weekend. And the cool thing specifically about that was about a month before I even went to the race, I said in one of my vlogs, because I've been watching the show, Drive to Survive. Have you heard of the show?
Yeah.
Okay. I've been watching the show. I kind of became a fan of the show. And then because of that, I started watching the season. And like, people in the comments were like, oh, you got to finish the season. And like the season starts then, like this date. So like you got to watch it. So I kind of got more involved with the F1 community. And I said in one of the vlogs, I was like, they have a race in Miami in about a month. I would love to go there and be able to shoot the race with a team. Had no connection to the race, I know nothing about the F1 world. I have no connections in the F1 world, but I said it out loud in the vlog, having no connection to that.
Yeah.
And then was like, I'm going to try and figure out a way to make this happen. And then I, talked about it a few more times about how I was sending emails. And I would check in the next week and be like, I'm sending more emails. I would love to make this F1 thing happen. And then I started getting some responses from teams. And so I was like a little bit like, okay, I got to see where this plays out before I really talk about it. But then eventually it got to the point where I was on the phone with Alpine and they were like, well, we would love to have you. We would love for you to come out. So we booked the plane tickets, like we signed a contract, like everything was good to go. And then I got to go back to the videos. Like I made like a separate video to be like, a month ago, I said that I would love to find a way to go to a race in May, and that was a month ago. Now, fast forward, I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm on a plane to Miami. I'm going to be there with the team the whole weekend. Like, this is going to be so fun. I'm bringing you along with me. And then I actually got to go to Miami. I was with the team the whole time. I got to be in the garage. I was making my vlogs. I got to, like, show the car, show the drivers, like, the paddock, and it was all from, like, my first experience of seeing a race.
Yeah.
And I got to tell the story from before it even happened. Like, but when it was still an idea in my head, I was still telling the story in the videos. And I think that was a really, like, cool thing to document the process of, because I kind of got to take anyone who was watching the videos at that time, they got to, like, be along for that journey. And I think that's, like, a really difficult thing to do. Like, in general with filmmaking, and like especially like having the idea but not knowing if you're actually gonna be able to see it through, but then it actually happening and like being in the paddock, everybody got to see it, but you also got to see it from my point of view for my first time ever seeing it. So I think like that whole sequence of events was like a really cool like milestone in my brain of like, wow, I can't really believe that just happened. And I just like said that it would happen like a month ago, and like now it's coming true. So that's my brag.
That is an amazing brag. That is awesome. That's super duper cool. I mean, like I think it, plays on the fact that like, and there's lots of people that have many different videos and books and things about like saying the things you want out loud and just putting it out there and then like doing something about it afterwards. So I just want to give a huge shout out to you for like putting it out there and like following through. That's super duper cool. And it sounds like it was an awesome experience.
It was. And then, from that, I got to meet more people involved in the F1 world. I got to meet like people like Tony, I give a shout out to her. And she's like connected me to all these people at a company in LA called Race Service, and like another F1 photographer named Lydia. And like, I've gotten to do a lot more work in that world because I just had that idea one day, but I got to document like the whole process of like that happening. And so now it's like it's a whole new part of my life, but like the beginning of it is like captured on video, and it's truth, not me talking about how it used to be an idea, but literally me saying out loud, like, here's the idea that I have. And then a month later, that idea coming to fruition. So I would love to be able to do more of that in the future too. It's really difficult. Like, I can't believe that it happened, you know, like a lot of things you say, sometimes it doesn't happen, but that one did. So I was pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, no, that's really, really cool. And on that note of like being able to look back, this is something I like. So I did, I like dabbled in YouTube for a little bit, and I did like Vlogmas one year, and I was like traveling through Europe with a friend, and it was really cool. And I find myself going back and looking at those videos a bunch. And at the time I was like, is it worth like making these videos like right now? But now I'm like, thank God I have these, because I can like go back to these memories. Like, do you find yourself going back and looking at your, I mean, you have a lot of vlogs, but going back and looking at your vlogs and kind of like reminiscing a lot?
You know, every now and then I will. Sometimes I'll go back in and check certain time periods to see if I think the videos were good or not. And I'll like kind of check myself of like, were these, you know, how was I doing at this time? And like, it's kind of a good thing, because most of the time when I look back, I think like these videos are not good. Like, I would do these completely different. So it's cool to feel like, you know, there's a bit of progress as far as like the technical aspect of making the videos goes. But as far as like reminiscing, you know, sometimes I'll go back to certain times like Miami, or like when we went to Coachella last year, like that was a really fun like weekend that I had like all these videos from. But when I was making my year, when I hit 365 days, I made like a year recap, and I like voice overed like kind of the entire year. And just from like doing the first vlog and having to kind of walk through all the things that happened just in 1 year. And like by the end of that year, I had like moved into a new house. Like, I was kind of living a completely different life than I was when I started the vlog on day one. And like most of the reason that I was living a completely different life was because of the blog. So to go back and look at all those moments and be like, all of that has led up to me being here where I am today. Like, seeing all the videos like all together and trying to condense it into one video was like, that was the only time, that was one of the big times where I was like, wow, like I get to reminisce, really like watch all of these moments as they happen and be like, I remember when that happened, or like, oh, this was so fun, or like, oh, I remember this time period and like something was about to happen that I didn't know was going to happen, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've also thought about like, you know, I have every day of my life for the past almost 500 days documented in a 60-second, you know, short video format. Like, when I'm like 55 years old and I can like, what was I doing in 2022 on March 2nd? And like, what did I have for lunch? Like, I could answer that question and go back to like that specific day. So I also think about like 25 years from now, how valuable like this content library will be for me.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I feel like it's such a unique, like people do journaling and stuff, but they have like a visual representation of a slice of your life from certain all the days within it is something that's honestly really, really cool. And I just want to again shout out to you for like consistency.
Yeah,
well done.
Consistency is if you're looking to be like, if you want to be a creator, I think there's a lot of things that you have to be good at in order to like make a career out of being a creator. And I think people learn what those things are at different times. I think consistency was the thing that I learned last and was actually like the most important like element that I was missing. I think some people might start out and be super consistent, and there might have been things that I started out with that they might not figure out for 2 years. But if you are looking to be a creator, consistency is like such a key factor in being able to build towards something that can like blossom into a career. Like, if you want to have any kind of career in this like new world of social media, consistency is so important. Cannot stress it enough.
I love that. And honestly, the perfect segue, because I love to end these interviews with 3 actionable tips for people that kind of want to if they've heard this interview and they're like inspired, they're like, oh, Jack cooks pretty cool, I want to do something like that. Just 3 tips, and I'll say consistency is 1. So if you have 2 other tips, doesn't have to be super long, could be super short, but just 2 things that people that have been inspired by hearing from you, and they're interested in maybe doing what you're doing, what would you tell them?
I would say 1, you have to have self-awareness of like what you are specifically passionate about. Like, knowing, it took me a long time to realize the style of videos that I'm doing now, these vlogs and like social media style videos, like documentary, going to like events and being able to capture those things and sort of the memory of it all and then recapping it like in my videos. That's the thing that I really love the most about filmmaking, and like that's the thing that I love doing. It took me a long time to realize that. So finding out, it takes a long time, but finding out what you're actually passionate about, if it's filmmaking or making music or painting or whatever it is, but in that specific medium, what's the thing that makes you really excited to go do it? Like me making the vlogs makes me excited every day to go do it. And that passion in turn makes me want to make them better every day, which I hopefully think makes the videos better every day. And then like that actually turns into a career. So self-awareness, and finding out what it is that you're really passionate about, if it's filmmaking or whatever the thing is. And then the other thing that I would say is, especially if you're starting out your career, you will engage with a lot of people that have an idea of what your potential is. And they don't understand what the potential that you see yourself having. And a lot of times those people end up putting you in a box. And it's not their fault. Like, people just naturally do that sometimes. But I think, especially if you're starting out, you cannot let people dictate what your potential could be, because you're worth so much more than anything. You're worth so much more than what those people think that you could be. And if you don't let those people get you down and put you in a box, eventually you get to a point where you actually do reach your full potential, which was far more than what that person really thought that you could ever do. And you'll be so much happier that you didn't let them tear you down and put you into that box, because you have so much more to offer. So don't let people get you down. Don't let them put you in a box, because I had a lot of people try to do that to me. And I always told myself, like, I'm not going to let these people put me in a box. They're not going to tell me what to do. I have a lot more to offer, and I know it. And it's really hard sometimes, because a lot of those people, sometimes you look up to them. Sometimes they're in positions of power. Sometimes they're in positions of influence, or they're people that are further along in their career and they think of you in only a certain way, but you can't let them, you can't let yourself begin to think about yourself the way that they think about you. You have to remember who you are, remember what your potential is, and go chase after it.
That was beautiful. I'm like amped up. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, don't put anyone in a box anymore. I love it. Jack, this has been really, really great. That advice, I think, is super stellar. I feel like people really enjoy hearing that. And I just want to say again, thanks for taking the time to chat for a while. This has been really cool. Again, love your vlogs. Can't wait to see more and to see all the cool things you put out into the world.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. We'll have to do it again.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of the Pursuit of Creativity podcast. If you enjoyed Jack's story and got some value from this episode, be sure to leave a review, share it with a friend, or leave a rating. It definitely helps us out a lot. For more insight, be sure to check out the Believe Divergent Instagram along with BelieveDivergent.com. I'm your host, Ikey. Thank you for listening to this episode once again. I really appreciate you. And as usual, stay optimistic. Better days are coming.